Now, in regards to soloing, for many bass players, that could be a little daunting because most of the time on the bandstand, we spend comping behind others, and then all of a sudden it's our turn to solo. And I don't know of any bass player that did not at some point get a little bit scared about it because all of a sudden it's our time. And I remember when I started out playing bass and when I thought about soloing, I would ask all these established and professional bass players, what are you thinking when you're soloing? And everybody would just tell me nothing. And I just did not understand it. How can you think of nothing when you solo? And then now, years later, I gotta admit, when I solo, I think of nothing. But the journey to get to that point is not something that's been done overnight. You know, playing solo, playing music is just like speaking a language. And in order to formulate your own sentences and tell your own stories, you have to have experience and you have to master your vocabulary, you have to know your alphabet. So before you even think about starting to do solos and telling tales of anything in music, just start slowly. Learn your scales. Start with a major scale, then you go to a minor scale, then a dominant scale. Learn all the scales you can stumble upon and learn how to get the flavor of them. Those scales are equivalent to the alphabet. And the better you are at the alphabet, the more chance you have of expressing yourself freely. Then you start transcribing solos you like, or melodies you like. And yet again, that's where jazz standards, regardless of what genre you play, that's where jazz standards come in really great, because the majority of jazz standards are actually old pop songs from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. So they're actually songs. And if you learn how to play these songs, you will also learn how to phrase and present the melody. So transcribing, learning jazz standards, playing the melodies, not just the chord, the melodies, and transcribing other solos will give you the vocabulary, will give you much more depth and width in terms of what you can build your own stories from. Now, so that's the whole mental, theoretical aspect of playing a solo and playing melodies. And just briefly about a solo, if you're still freaking out about it after all checking out all these things, then think about it like this. When you play a solo, you start with one note, and then you play another, and then you play another, and before you know it, you're playing a solo. So you got all the time in the world, you'll get there as long as you just study who came before you and study the songs and play melodies. Now, once you are at that point, you should also think about how you present your melodies. And on the bass, when you play the low part of the bass, when you're comping, then you want to have a fat, wider sound. So on upright, and that goes for electric too, the more skin, the more flesh that touches the string, the wider, fatter sound you get. So if you play a walking bass line, you want to get something fat and wide. Or if you play something funky. Or if you play a ballad. Fat and wide. But once you play a melody or a solo, you can't have that same fatness and width in your note because it'll be too wide because you start playing up here possibly. If I play, for example, When You Wish Upon a Star, if you play that with a fat sound, it could sound cool, but when you play, you want to be clear and crisp when you present your melody. So instead of playing, you want to play. You see the tone gets a little sharper, a little more defined. And the way you do that is your right hand gives the string a little less flesh, a little less skin. You tilt the hand a little bit so your note gets a little more pointy and a little more direct. Because when you tell a story, when it's your time to tell a story, when it's your time to play a melody, it's your time to play a solo, you're speaking to somebody. Then you give a firmer handshake, and that's when you tilt your hand a little bit and get more precise. Again, I'll illustrate it again. This is if I play with just my behind-the-scenes vibe. if I give a firm handshake and now I want to tell you this story. You see what I'm saying? So when you play a solo, mean it. Because of course you have to say what you mean, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't mean what you say. So switch your, tilt your hand a little bit, make it a little more pointy. Think about it as more of a firm handshake. How to develop your improvisation is also very similar how to build your bass lines. Of course, it's different principles, but the overall principle is the same. It's about developing an idea. And that's yet again another place where jazz standards comes in really handy, because if you practice, you take a jazz standard, you play the melody, and then you look at the chords, you look at the flavors, and then slowly you start to elaborate on what's going on. And remember, one of the jazz standards I started working with was Secret Love. And the melody, I started just playing the melody. Already now I'm elaborating, but if you play the melody really strict, and once you have that inside of you, then you can start slowly changing just a little bit. Don't do a whole lot. Again, build this house really slowly. So now I'm just doing something rhythmically. That's a little bit harmonically. Alternate notes, just like the bass line. So alternate bass lines, you can use that approach too in melodies. So, with Secret Love. That's almost a melody, but I use different notes. So you could start building like that, and before you know it, you know what area you're moving in. Instead of playing, you can play. So before you know it, you're starting to move out. It's almost like taking a walk in the woods. You're starting to figure out, okay, here's the path. Oh, I can walk a little bit out the path. And before you know it, you're like on the other side of the woods. So don't think about you have to go out and play another note and play a whole bunch of notes and do all this soloing. So just investigate. Slowly investigate what notes you can play, and then start with the melody and start developing the melody. The best solos are not the most notes. The best solo is the solo that takes an idea and develops it. So now when you're soloing or playing melodies, obviously there are all the notes, but there's more than just notes when you play a melody and solo. There's also how you play the notes. And if you notice how I play, I do a lot of glisses. I do if it's that kind of song, or, so what dictates what you can do is basically what you want to do. But I recommend listening to a lot of different kinds of music and a lot of different kinds of instruments too. Don't only listen to bass players, also listen to guitar players, to drummers, to singers, to opera singers, like anything that presents a melody in a way that moves you or touches you. Check it out and figure out what it is. Personally, I've been listening a lot to singers and how they do it, and also my mom used to sing a lot to me. So when I started playing bass, I was trying to phrase the way she would sing to me. And I wasn't really, when I try to figure out how to do phrasing, I'm not so much thinking about what notes it is, but more get the expression. If I would phrase like my mom used to sing to me as a kid, it would be like... That would be how my mom would sing. And I don't even know what notes I'm playing. I'm just focusing on how to phrase it and make it feel and sound like her voice. Or if I'm thinking about a more jazzy thing, then it would be more about the sound and the rhythmic aspect of it. If I'm thinking about who could it be? It could be like Paul Chambers, you know. That's all. That's more a rhythmic thing and how are articulated. So there's different approaches how you want to articulate your voice when you say something. It's almost like a brush stroke. Do you take a pen? Do you take a pencil? Do you take a feather? And then when you study that, how you can do that, you don't think so much about the notes. It's more how you do it. And then eventually, if you keep doing this on all aspects, it will all come back to you and come naturally to you when you do something in music. Because when it comes down to it and you play your solo and you play your melody, it should come naturally. You shouldn't force a style or a way of playing on the music. It should dictate naturally what you would do. In this lesson, we've been talking about soloing, not only how to approach it mentally, but also physically, how you can move your hand, but also how you can learn to build your vocabulary and how you can learn how to develop an idea, a story. And I hope also that I made it clear that studying jazz standards and melodies of jazz standards is a really good place to start. And it's also a really good idea to check out different instruments and different genres to get different angles on how to develop and how to deliver a solo performance and a melody and a solo that moves you, and keeping that whole delivery with a firm handshake. So when you talk to somebody, when you deliver your solo, it's like looking somebody in the eye and telling them something personally, one-to-one. That's really important when you tell a story and doing a solo or a melody. And I'll sum it up with a song. This is a song called Rain, and that tune is actually a summary of a lot of music I listen to, originating in jazz, but it's also got some classical stuff. It's got some folky stuff, but out of a jazz harmonic context. So here it is. It's called Rain.